only revolutionary organization that's done something here on the ground practically for African people is the one that's come under attack.
Nobody said this was going to be easy, but has it ever been?
As I was coming out, this big old drone met me.
You've come this far. What did you think was going to happen? Uhuru.
They handcuffed me and my wife out here. They wanted me to sit on the curb while they were carrying this out.
Africa's uniting. Some people don't like it. Get ready for the resistance. A moment like this, that moment in time. A moment like this, some people wait a lifetime. Momentum in this time is what Africa has, and we're seeing breakthroughs of the old, breaking through the old, out of it, and erupting vehemently into new changes that are raising the bar for Africa's evaluation. And how do you know when you're gaining ground? Well, one major telltale sign of winning a battle is resistance comes and strikes you back. There's the resistance. Now you know that you're breaking new ground. The resistance is starting to combat your every move and from every side. And when you've done all there is to do, you stand. Uhuru. Say what? Yes, the Uhuru house, which is about 30 minutes from where I'm standing right now, where I live, just over the bridge here. It's in St. Petersburg, Florida. The Uhuru House in St. Petersburg, Florida has been raided by the feds. It's an African socialist movement. Not that I agree with everything in the move, but I do agree with the freedom that they have to speak their minds. It's a grassroots, behind the scenes of all the flossy-nossy and hillafilification of politics, and they aim to serve a goal strengthening the African American community in their own way. You saw the intro. They've been raided. And the leader of the pack is speaking out for as long as he's allowed to. It's a dangerous road anymore, isn't it? Speaking the truth, if it doesn't coincide with the government's narratives, look at how far Africa has come. Ghana, Uganda, throughout the Sahel, Nigeria, and I could go on naming most of the African countries. Right now I could name them almost all of them. Almost. They have come out to challenge the West and its system of operations. And it's been the voices of the people. It's been you who have come out in protest, speaking out over social media in like-minded manners. This has been the greatest weapon of change. Speaking it. Speaksnsee. That's where we got the name for this channel, literally. If you speak it, you will see it. The word of God says you shall have whatsoever you say it. Say to this mountain, move. Be removed and cast out into the sea, and you will have whatsoever you say it, if you don't doubt, for those who believe. God said, let there be light. And he saw light. He spoke it, he saw it. God said, he spoke, he saw. Speaksnsee. It's faith. And it's words in action with your voice, which is exactly what they're trying to take away from us right now. Pray for this channel.
My crime is my absolute belief in free speech.
Make sure you like and subscribe to us here on YouTube. Follow us on X, Rumble, and Facebook. As we need all the channels we can keep open for this great awakening to continue, in case something should happen, if you know what I'm saying. Now, what's happening across the bridge?
The details of the story are even more shocking than we're describing, and we're going to get them from the man at the very center of it, Omali Yeshitela, the chairman of this group.
Over there in St. Petersburg, Africans and African Americans are being silenced. You're going to want to grab a drink for this. So grab a drink and let's take a look.
When we talk about the ignorance of the people being a factor here, part of the way to keep the people ignorant is to keep them from participating in discussion.
Yes.
Because the attack on my right to speak is also an attack on the right of the people to hear. Based on some assumption that the contradiction is racism, or the ideas or the opinions that white people have about black people, what I have done and said, that's not the fundamental contradiction. The fundamental contradiction is colonialism. It's domestic colonialism. And it applies right here in this country where foreign and alien power kidnapped me.
What's so interesting about this case is that the government under Joe Biden is not even pretending that they did anything illegal. There's no actual crime here. No one has been charged with bomb making or hurting anyone or any act of violence, no act of embezzlement or theft. What they're charged with is liking Russia, is having opinions that the Biden administration doesn't want them to have, saying things that they're not supposed to say in public. First, they come for people like this, people on the fringe, and then they come for you. The details of the story are even more shocking than we're describing, and we're going to get them from the man at the very center of it, Amalia Yeshitela, the chairman of this group, the man now accused of being a Russian agent and about to go on trial. We're honored to have him join us now. Mr. Chairman, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me. This is an important interview for us. It helps us to break out of this encirclement, information encirclement that has been imposed on us by the U.S. government. And when we talk about the ignorance of the people being a factor here, part of the way to keep the people ignorant is to keep them from participating in discussion.
Yes.
Because the attack on my right to speak is also an attack on the right of the people to hear. So I have something to say. People may, as you said, agree or not agree with it, but at least they can have opinions that are informed opinions about agreeing or not agreeing with me. But when they use grenades and battering rams and armored vehicles and assault weapons and things like that to keep me from talking, and when they talk about putting me in prison for 15 years, which is the equivalent of a life sentence for me, this is designed to keep the people from hearing what I have to say. And it's a real testimony, in my opinion, of the fragility of a social system that cannot tolerate a discussion coming from somebody from one of the most economically depressed sector of and that they're politically motivated in doing what they have done because of internal crisis and crisis in the existing global system that sees forces like China and Russia, and increasingly even countries like Iran, countries like Venezuela are challenging the hegemony of a country that has held that for the longest period of time, has been the big hegemon. And so I think this is a domestic crisis that's represented by what we see happening inside this country right now, and what we see being partially responsible for it by forces around the world who are challenging the ability.
Think about that for 1 second. As he starts challenging the United States for being the big dog, the ones who want to keep everybody else in their little safety hive, their safety cove of power, now he gets arrested. Now he gets thrown in jail. Now he's going to be looking at a life sentence because he's the one challenging the big dog, as you are challenging the big dog on how America deals with their finances and their sanctions and their human rights and all these other things. This is just a touch of what you're about to see this man talking about and what he's going through because of really the Africa empowerment right now that we're seeing in Africa and the grassroots that are happening here in the United States, as you guys are watching and like and subscribe, and we're going to keep this going.
And what we see being partially responsible for it by forces around the world who are challenging the ability of the United States to continue to be the big dog here. I think that's what we're looking at. And then, of course, there's the immediate personal interests of a guy who's running for president, re-election, and who is also attempting to escape the moniker of being sleepy. So, I mean, I think these are some of the factors that informs much of what's happening right now.
One of the great and beautiful things of this moment that we're living in is that we can sort of put aside some of our preconceptions, and I'm sure there's a lot we disagree on. I don't think I disagree with a single word that you just said. I thought it was very nicely put and wise. And I just want to say for the record, I agree with you. This is a sign of fragility of the regime. Confident rulers don't act like this. No conventional crime. You're accused of having the wrong opinions. Am I missing something?
Well, yeah, because what they've said is that even if what we said was true, even if it's disinformation, we're accused of spewing Russian disinformation. And they have said that even if we said what we said is true, it still amounts to disinformation. So they're not necessarily accusing us of lying. They're accusing us of talking.
Right.
And we couldn't go to court and say, hey, these people have just looted us and they have handcuffed us, and they've shut down entire neighborhoods, refused to allow people to enter their homes. This is pre-dawn, or leave without showing identification. They've done all of these things, and we can't go to court and complain about it because we have no legal standing, because for 9 months we weren't charged with anything. They've just stolen all of these materials. They've looted our files. They've taken laptops and iPads and iPhones and things like that. And you see that it's only by law that we're supposed to have rights, but in fact, these rights don't exist. And what I have done and what our organization has done is move from this simpering kind of a politic that's based on pleading and begging and trying to come into the system based on some assumption that the contradiction is racism, or the ideas or the opinions that white people have about black people. What I have done is said that's not the fundamental contradiction. The fundamental contradiction is colonialism.
Mic drop. That's a mic drop, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you right now, I never heard that one before, and he could literally stop the show right there, but no, he's got more to say. But listen to that. Once again, I'm convinced that it's not racism that's the problem in the world. It's colonialism. We're seeing that in a way with the ties with Africa and Russia, which is what he's doing. He's tying himself in, is like, I like Russia. That's all he's saying. He says, I like Russia. No big deal. But America's attacking them for that. But what if that word got out? It's not racism. It's colonialism. Then we'd have the whole Democrat Party would be thrown away. All governments, even the Republicans, thrown away. It's not the racism. It's you. If the people got together, that's what he's saying. It's not the people. It's not the racism. It's the system. It's keeping us tied down, and we can't take that racism word away from the government because nope. Because all the white people are racist against the blacks, and all the blacks are racist against the white. I don't believe that for a second. I don't, because I've got way too many more black friends than white, to be honest with you, and it's not about racism. It's about like-mindedness. I just wanted to say that's a mic drop if I've ever seen one. Let me know what you think about what he said there, and we're going to keep going.
Based on some assumption that the contradiction is racism, or the ideas or the opinions that white people have about black people, what I have done is said that's not the fundamental contradiction. The fundamental contradiction is colonialism. It's domestic colonialism. And it applies right here in this country, where foreign and alien power kidnapped me. That somebody like to talk about this country being a country of, how do they call it, immigrants. Well, we're not immigrants. We were captives and brought here in chains. And the only group other than the indigenous people themselves who didn't come here looking for a better way of life. People may or may not like what I'm saying or agree with it, and that's all right. But I'm saying it, and the point is the United States government attacked me, and they used this assault with the assumption that there are a lot of white people who don't like what I'm saying and therefore will agree with what the government is doing, despite the fact there are no facts to substantiate what they're claiming that we did.
But may I ask you a question, though?
Yeah.
So, but this is being done by the administration that tells us constantly how much they love and worship black people. They love black people. No one's ever done more for black people than the Biden administration. And no one has cheered that on more loudly than the New York Times and the Washington Post, which also love black people, probably a lot more than you do. So have they come to your defense at all? Like any of these?
Not at all.
Yeah, why? That's kind of weird.
No, and it's really a real serious kind of contradiction that this is able to occur. And especially, we talk about Biden, if we just take it on a personal level, which is not necessarily where I was intending to go, but if you take it just on a personal level, we're talking about Biden, who claims to be the great liberal, a white man who loves us. We're talking also about the guy who was opposed to the Civil Rights Bill, talking about the guy who was opposed to busing because he didn't want his children to have to go to school in a jungle, et cetera, just on a personal level. And But here, they have never had to offer African people anything. When they run for office, it's not because they're offering us anything. They're frightening black people. They say, if you don't vote for us, you're going to get Trump, who is a demon, or you're going to get the Republicans, who are demons, or you're going to get what we characterize as fascism, et cetera. So they don't have to promise black people anything, except they swear they'll protect us from the other white people. That's one aspect of it. And then there's a whole body of folk who are employed through things like welfare, slavery, and programs that they create it's a whole array of folk that employ liberals based on that. And what we stand for is self-determination. We also believe in reparation, but the point is that we have in St. Louis alone, we have in 7 contiguous blocks in St. Louis, economically depressed sector, we purchased something like 20 some odd properties, and we put businesses and other kinds of things there. That's not permissible. We are supposed to get in line for welfare or something like that, and we are teaching African people that you can be self-determining. There is an alternative to what you got. But the whole Democratic Party apparatus rests upon this foundation of welfare slavery, and this is where they would have black people located. And so the Democratic Party, you can't say that they lied to us, whether it was Obama, Biden. You can't say they lied to us because they didn't promise us anything, except they would protect us from Trump, from the Republican Party. And I'm not a Trump person or Republican person. I'm for the liberation of black people. And that's why this whole thing about working for Russians is so ridiculous. I'm not looking for another master. I'm trying to get rid of the whole relationship that presupposes that we will be servants of anybody.
Whoop, there it is. Whoop, there it is. Whoop, whoop. And there it is. He's not presupposing that he's servants of anybody, that Africans are servants of anybody. Now, with the government, the United States, you're supposed to feel like you are our servant. You need us. You need us. You can't live without us. This is how the colonization and the United States government seems to be working this guy, right? Because he is power to Africa, power to Africans, bring in Russia, bring in China, whatever's going to empower us more, whoever's going to empower us more, we'll take that. In American government, no, you won't. No, you won't. So this is the battle, and this is probably why he's been arrested and raided in those videos that you saw. That was his house. This is probably why, because he's not playing the game anymore. He's not letting American government be his master. I like this guy. Let me know what you think down below.
And we pulled together something like 40 different organizations and what have you to unite as a part of a free speech, anti-colonial free speech movement. I mean, it's incredible the attack that's being made on the right to people of speech. And by the way, as a point of information, I've been arrested several times on the question of speech. And we were having a meeting and they didn't want me to talk. And so they attacked the building. They said, in our own building, they said that you have something like 5 minutes to get out of the building because this is an illegal meeting. We own the building. And so they attacked. So the free speech question, and that the problem is they did this in plain view. People saw it happen. They brought, the people in the community actually brought a helicopter down by gunfire. This is how intense it was. And not a single civil libertarian stepped forward to say, why are you attacking these people for just speech?
Well, but I'm confused. So you're describing basically what the Black Lives Matter people said 4 years ago. Some of them got legit rich out of it. You don't seem like you've gotten rich. And they got all this money from Apple and the biggest companies in the world. And of course, the media cheerled them. How did you miss out on that?
Well, because the thing is, like, to say Black Lives Matter is such an empty slogan. It's a whine rather than a demand. It's empty. I mean, Joe Biden says Black Lives Matter. I mean, you got the whole Democratic Party, Congress and whatever, get out on one knee with kente cloth from Ghana over their shoulder saying Black Lives Matter. because it doesn't mean anything. It's a non-statement. But what we say is black people have to have power. So we want power over our own life. That's the question. And that's the basis for the difference in how they would treat Black Lives Matter and how they would treat us. And you're right. The Black Lives Matter slogan is almost a Zuckerberg manufactured slogan. Certainly if it's not manufactured by Zuckerberg, it's certainly promoted by Zuckerberg and all the white people who love us. Yeah, right. I mean, we've been sanctioned by banks like we are some kind of hostile country. This attack on us on July 29th followed an attack on July 2nd, 2029, where a 50-foot flagpole hosting a 15 by 25-foot red, black, and green African national flag was torched in broad daylight. And the guy who torched it wasn't even charged with arson. And you need to come to St. Louis. By the way, I heard you make some kind of suggestion that you might like me if you have dinner or something. And so that's an open invitation. Come to St. Louis.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyway, I want you to see what we're doing, because I think it's really important to get a grasp of the significance of what is happening to us, because you won't find another organization doing this. This is who we are. And this is part of the crime that's being committed against our community, our people, because this is self-determination, and that's the problem that they have, and that's the thing that the Democratic Party has, because it relies on having this relationship with black people who are tied to welfare slavery and not self-determination, and we won't tolerate that.
Amen. If you don't mind my asking, and let me tell you why I'm asking. I want to ask how old you are, because I see this armored personnel carrier in front of your house. It looks like a war. And I see dozens of heavily armed FBI agents. And the presumption is that you're very dangerous. So to put that into perspective, how old are you?
I'm 82 years old. I was 82 in October. And that's why I say that this whole threat of a 15-year prison sentence is effectively a threat of a life sentence as it relates to me. That there are other younger people, like Penny Hess, who is a white woman and I wanted to mention that, who is chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, and Jesse Neville, who is a youngster, who is the chair of an Uhuru Solidarity Movement, and they work primarily in the white community. And this concept, even of understanding who we are, like as quote unquote black nationalists, we're anti-colonialist forces, but we have organizations of white people in 117 cities in this country. And what these organizations are doing is they are taking the demand for reparation. They are taking the exposure of genocide. They're talking about the injustices committed against African people. So Penny Hess and Jesse Neville, they are heads of two of those organizations that are the front of our movement in the white community. So I just want to say that we are not race-based politics. Our politic is based on this fundamental relationship, because even the concept of race comes into existence through colonialism. We are anti-colonialists, and so it's ridiculous on its face.
I think this is one of the most...
They would negate my history. That's part of what it is. They would negate the history of black people in this country, and a part of it is a negation of the history of the country itself. And this is part of what I mean in terms of, history. I mean, it can be unpleasant, but if we don't face it, if we don't look at it, we can never solve any real problems. And that's one of the reasons I'm glad to have this discussion with you, and hopefully giving me access to people who I normally wouldn't be talking to.
I hope this is seen far and wide. So I'm grateful that you came on and talked to us, and Godspeed on your trial. It's
thank you so very much.
We'll be following.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So here we are, ladies and gentlemen, when we see Africa getting so close to Russia, becoming very good friends with Russia. Now we're seeing what is happening here in America. Same thing. We're seeing the African community coming along and making a tie with Russia, or at least even putting it out there that Russia ain't so bad. What he's facing is his communication with Russia. Not to be communicating with Russia. So we see all these African countries right now, they're tying hands and becoming closer to Russia as allies than us. When you do that, expect some resistance. As we can see with this man right here, it's a clear sign, clear view sight in the wide open for all the world to see that resistance is coming towards a people that are trying to be independent, self-reliant, empowered, self-empowered. I hope you understand the meaning behind this and what it's trying to emphasize here. Because if I'm seeing it with my eyes, the whole world is seeing what's happening now, not only in Africa, but now it's coming to the United States as well. Henceforth, Uhuru, freedom, never free. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for watching, and we know that in freedom, the sun has set free is free indeed. I leave you with that right there. So take your liberty in Him, be free. I'll see you on the next one. God bless you. Have a blessed day. One love. Bye-bye.